All right. Hey there, YouTube. It's been a while, hasn't it? What, in the span of 24 hours, we've already got 2 drone strikes on the Kremlin, just like floated in. Do, like space invaders. Do. And then, so, there's been talk that it's a false flag. Somebody decided to do it for some unknown reasons, and it certainly didn't accomplish anything, right? It was just like fireworks. So maybe it was preparations for this year's New Year's celebration. They wanted to get a jump start on the festivities. And so there was these really young guys that probably weren't paid a lot of money, and somebody ran off with the money they were supposed to get paid with, and then they were left alone because their supervisor was found with like 2 empty vodka bottles the night before. So they were just like playing with the remote controls. So somebody, one of the sons of one of the workers got into it and hit the wrong button, and the things went up, and that's what we saw. It's a likely scenario, isn't it? We're not getting any real explanations. Like, who can you ask? Can you go to the old lady that has lived her entire life on potato soup at the kiosk, that gets up at ungodly hours every morning? Can you go to her and say, "Hey, excuse me, is Venitza, what happened?" Is she going to tell you the answer? Does she know? Who knows the answer? I don't know. It's one of those questions, right? We're not going to get an official version, or we're going to get an official version, but then it's the official version. So I think Russians at this point, they really they know how to get behind official versions, because they've been getting behind official versions because that's the thing they have to do there, because it's now just like a social ritual to go along with any old thing. As long as the flag's waved. Whew, oh yes, indeedy. Oh yes, we have a big old party for our national legacy of extreme accomplishment under the most difficult of circumstances ever. So let's get another parade. Somebody find some trucks, put some missiles on them, and paint the trucks an ugly green, and get a bunch of people, order them around to show how invincible of a world power we are. So here's the problem with delusion. Delusion is not good for the individual on any level. Delusion is not good for political organizations. Delusion is not good for militaries. You can get yourself killed in an instant if you are delusional. You can disappear. You think your brakes are working, you hit the brakes and the brakes are not working. That was the moment of delusion. You thought they were working, they're not working. Then there's a horrible accident. Now, there are degrees of acceptable delusion. That would be a case. You could go through 1,000 different reasons why you believed what you believed. And at some point, other people would say, I understand you. Like, there's no way I would have thought differently in that case, or in most cases. Now, I do check the brakes. That's something, it's weird. Like, I check a lot of things other people don't check. Just because I don't want to fall into an extreme rage, because I have these demanding standards. I have, some people might say it's a blessing. It's a curse most of the time, because you know how many times things go wrong in a day, and then you have to change your way of seeing wrong so that it becomes an instructional thing, something you can say, all right, what is wrong about this? Maybe my expectations are wrong. How about this? Maybe I don't need to be driving around like a maniac. I don't have to go from A to B to A to B to A to B, A to B, A to B every day, every year, everywhere, because maybe that doesn't make any sense, even though I've thought up some type of reason why I need to be working all the time. I'm not rich enough. I'm not important enough. I'm not. Why do you need to be working all the time? For emergencies like what we have now, it's not about a working contract. It's not like, oh, who gives me a contract? Who pays me now? It's about an international crisis emergency that affects every one of us, every damn last one of us. So we need to start thinking in those terms. This is not normal behavior. This is not something that should happen every day or ever. So why is this happening? What are the explanations? How did this whole thing get started? And how can we start winding it down? How can we just say, okay, thank you for your services to the great Russian Empire, but actually the results aren't all that good. The track record sucks. The results are not convincing. It's again a big wash. So that doesn't mean that Russia is bad or Russians are bad. That doesn't mean that the mountains are bad. That doesn't mean any of these significances that we put on world events, such as this person is important or that person is important because they are in these positions. This is how simple people think. This is the way we're encouraged to think about leaders. It's about personalities. It's not about competencies. How about a whole lot more competency and a whole lot less personality? I love the way they build personality, like how they do it. Like, all right, let's get this script together, and you just come across as the super smartest person in the world. Like, you could field questions, like softball questions that have been gone over by a team of writers, and then you just have to deliver those lines, type of authenticity that we're used to from postmodern politicians worldwide. Because I don't want to just focus on Russia. Russia has its own version of it. Right? And again, it's what layers are we talking about? How many times have you voted for financial executives? But guess what? These financial executives are voted in by these politicos. So who's more important to functioning economies and societies, and certainly functioning geopolitics, where insane regimes are not being funded with hardworking, decent, honest people's monetary systems. Europe, why is Europe funding madness? Why? What is the business reason for that? Because I'm going to tell you right now, the business reason is deficient. It's not enough. It's like, oh, you guess what? You give up your security and your freedom, but you get back money, spelled M-U-N-Y, money. We're gonna change that word like we change other words. The fifth columnists go after other words. How you say words. We're gonna change money to money because it's the new word for the new wealth that these warlike actors want to enrich the world with via exterminationism of world-renowned cultures and peoples and languages and accomplishments. especially in the fields of morality, which again they just think is a way to access systems. So they're really keen on appearing, like appearances, like appearing to be beyond reproach, because that again gives them cover to access and subvert cultural institutions, such as the legal system. Big, very important for businessmen, for people who get things done in the world. Can you imagine how important something is to the parties involved if they go to court? And actually, they should go to court, because the court should be a place that settles disputes. That's what the old kings did. Let's get away from these lawyers that are running their own damn shows. They're writing their own laws. Can you imagine that? These people aren't qualified to do that. They're not morally qualified. Certainly not. People who profiteer off disputes. Instead of resolving them, they just bleed both parties dry, come up with an asinine verdict that destroys lives and businesses en masse. So let's get back to the old courts. The old courts was the king. He was the military man. He did organize military and security, and he had people manning the ramparts, the city walls, the paths, in the jungle. And he was an important person. People entrusted him with important duties. And guess what? If he failed, everybody was wiped out or enslaved. Or you again go back to Pakistan, where go back to Persia, go back to Mesopotamia. If you don't believe me, because archaeology is now coming out every day with new fascinating information that is really a lot more accurate than most likely the BS version of history that you now need to uneducate yourself in. So what did he do? He was an important person. He held court. So that meant, again, not because he wanted to show himself to be such a marvelously fashionable person, but it was his job. He was the judge. And he held court because he wanted to know what was going on. But he also wanted to legitimize his position, which is, are there disputes within the community? How can we resolve these amicably and well, as amicably as possible? The type of problems that came to the court, as are today, horrific. Nothing about it glamorous at all. It's like being in a open heart surgery operation room. But how about this? Not all the time. Not when things were well managed, okay? When things were well managed, there wasn't a lot to do. But the problem was good kings passed off to family members, because that was the other way that they tried to mitigate disputes. And even within their own damn families, you had dumbass people, cousins, uncles, grandiose, bad-mouthing, spoiled numbnuts, right, that messed up the franchise for as long as they were. Oh, how about this? Overambitious. Oh yeah, look at that land over there. If I have that. Scheming, greedy, stupid, immoral. Just everything that can happen to human beings happens to kings too. So that's why history is so wonderful. And guess what? It's so depoliticized. It's nothing. Nobody cares what you say about these kings of old. You're either accurate or you're not. And there's a lot of slimy, subversive of versions of history that have nothing to do with the truth, which is why we have so many damn fools running around here attacking their own culture. So guess what? The king held court and people came in and he resolved disputes to the best of his worldly and heavenly abilities. So help him God. And again, when he ruled correctly, when there were functioning courts, when he made wise decisions, the people benefited greatly. In fact, possibly exponentially better than other kingdoms that were run by similar forms of lunatics, incompetence, forms of overindulged tyrants, just esteem themselves up. Because this is, again, a human problem. You build these pyramids and you get a bunch of incompetence up there. Everybody's treating them like a god. They lose their minds. They develop subnormal tendencies because they don't got what it takes to remain super normal under unbelievable levels of temptation and also attack. Can you imagine the dancing girls of old, the thousands of them? You're the king. Can you imagine type of lifestyle you could fall into, where the wine's just flowing as much as can be? Everyone wants to be in good with the king, because when their case might come up, the king's going to take that into account. Now, maybe it's a good thing he does that. Maybe it's an old friend that made a bad mistake. King's going to forgive him. In that case, he might not. This is why messing with a king is a pretty deadly thing, because the consequences are extreme. As you could lose your life in the company of a king for more or less anything. Okay, so but that's the problem with this impunity, is that this impunity is misused by people that are not cut out for the position. And so in the West, we do have to think about this. Our leadership processes have been hijacked by, again, lawyers, who knows, money obsessed hogs, subversives, fifth columnists. Again, fifth columnists, look, we are in this stage of the war. Fifth columnists are out in the open. They're prolific. They're, I would almost say, dominant in our institutions. So they're there. Now they're going to try to sell you their version of events, but over time, I think that's going to be more and more difficult, especially the scale of the things going on now. How do you do that? If you want to go back to, let's say, the Balkan War, where Greece was being attacked, and Turkey was just slaughtering all different types of Europeans with impunity. There were people presenting events in one way that were aligned with the forces doing all of the killing. And there were forces that were against that were also presenting events in a certain way. And over time, it became discernible who was who. So when people discredit themselves today, like they shill for genocide, for example, there's no coming back from that on this worldly plane. They have committed themselves to that position. And it's up to you to see them for what they are. They're just pretending to be neutral, right? Pretending to be modern, pretending to be somehow from some utopian universe where all their hot bullshit fits together and works. Where, yeah, of course they should be managing the money because they're just economic geniuses that have driven first-rate countries like Russia straight into the damn gutter. So whose fault is that? Oh, it's the one guy, the big guy up there. Well, but who was moving all the money? Where did it go? Into whose hands? And we know some of these people because they're so infamously grotesque in their misdeeds that scream out to high heaven like bombs falling on hospitals and churches. So at what point does money, when is it enough money to go along with that type of plan? Like, what is the point? What is the breaking point where these fifth columnists will give the money back? Well, here's the problem. You would think that would be an ethical dilemma with them, but because they've been inverted morally, they think they're actually doing the right thing. They're convinced. So they might unconvince themselves, like if it becomes just unbelievably horrific. But some of these people, they have zero moral compass. They're nihilist. So historical nihilists, you should look into that. But you should also think of nihilism. These people don't think there will be any karmic consequences in this life or the millions of lives to come. Or in this life. They actually think it's some type of strategy for winning. Again, attacking altruism and openness and the assumption that they are good by good people. See, good people project their goodness on others, makes them easy targets, easy marks. Every damn con man knows that. That's exactly what they use. So fifth columnists, they're like, okay, what are these con men? Why are they successful? Why did these people give this con all this money? They study that. They're like, oh my goodness, they've got 10 different cases. They have a whole book, cons. Make sure your make sure your tie is real shiny. Make sure that suit just glows on camera, or your whacked out hairdo if you're wearing a business suit and a bra on camera. They read that. If they're not reading it, their little monkey trainers do. And if there's a bad cut, that doesn't get aired on TV. No, it's the infallible leader that only says wise things that makes it into the information bubbles. So is it surprising that good people get conned by these people? No, it's not. But the con jobs are visible. They're out there. They're working for a living. Oh, yes, they are. So we should definitely realize how much service these people have and are delivering for the money that apparently they're getting to do it. Because that's one thing nihilists don't do, is work for free. Which means there's probably records somewhere that do implicate them. And the implications of those payments more or less speak for themselves. So what will come of that? Well, that depends on leadership, doesn't it? They laugh at leadership. They're like, oh, leadership. That's funny. We pick the puppets. That's how these pigeons are sitting in the branches of the tree that they're rotting out while they preen and overinflate their importance to the planet. They're complete and utter pestilence. And again, the results speak for themselves. So Plutarch would have said the same thing in his time. Okay? The only reason why this is political, and see, I say this as a historian, is because these idiots are still alive. They're still jumping around. They're worried. They think things are an attack on them because it potentially could lead to people saying, oh, you know what? You're a fraud. You're a damn fraud. That's when when things start happening, especially if they realize how much that type of fraud has damaged not just their lives, their future lives, but the lives of generations to come. Like, oh, that's overstating it. That's hyperbolic. Oh, is it? Yeah, when a nuclear war or a nuclear power plant explodes, that's not affecting future generations. It's already happened before, Chernobyl, but a breadbasket of Europe. How many cancer cases can be attributed to that? Let's airbrush that out. We're talking about good things here today. Let's forget about that. Especially, let's pin it on a couple of people. Forget it never happened, when in fact it was a systemic incompetence that led to that. And how many of these things are still cooking? When they close themselves off from the world, from Western technology, and they're just going to get everything from China now, or what? India's going to come to their rescue with a bunch of mangoes. Is that it? Indians. Completely out of control on their population and climate objectives. So yeah, look to the containerization. Climate change is a container. It's a political filler. It's like talking about the weather, a high-tech way, a sophistic way. So there's this, and then out comes, shilling for human torpedoes. There's a humanitarian reason why all this is happening. There's all these boats and motorboats and high-tech life jackets and equipment and military-like organization that's just happening because it's a human wave of humanitarian proportion. These people get in the camera. Can you believe that? They've done it. They're on camera doing that. So what will they say when if they ever make it to court? They'll just say, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just working. I got a contract from this casting couch company, and they said they'd give me $10,000 to say this on camera. That's what they're going to say. Like, there's going to be 10,000 influencers that say that or something like that. So you want to talk about misleading the public? No. They'll say it's you that's misleading the public. All that utopian jazz that they're playing out there in the background. There's no consequence to that. It's all just a beautiful dream. The Georgian dream, the Moldovan dream, the Serbian dream. It's all just a dream. The Chinese dream. See, and this is the thing now. Now we got all these dragon feeders like Iran pirating tankers, while these free-riding dragon feeders are trying to make all that money, because there's no secondary sanctions on them. We sanctioned Russia, so that's it. All the people that Russia's selling to, no, we can't do that. The money is too important to us in stopping a war. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the karmic consequences of that for these paduchinas? It is frightening. That is why, again, get back to morality. Good words, good thoughts, good deeds. Because your life matters. Your culture matters. Everything matters. Your karma matters. It absolutely does. This is my message to you. It's my message for the present. It's my message to the past. It is my message to the future. So, greed, ill will, delusion, leave it behind. Thanks for listening.